Hi there, I'm Julie Hansen, and I am the founder of Performance Sales and Training and also the creator of the Selling on Video Masterclass. And I'm very excited to be here with you today and talk about how to make those internal sales meetings and presentations as engaging and interactive and collaborative and successful as possible using video. And what I'm going to do is share with you 7 tips that I think will have the most immediate impact and are pretty simple for you to put into place. You may have found this out yourself, but people are simply more passive on video. And that happens oftentimes because we're at home and maybe we're in our comfy chair and we're not obligated to be as engaged as we are when we're live and someone's in front of us. And also because it's just that typical passive behavior that we've been trained to fall into when we get in front of a screen. So it's really important that we have some tools to break people out of that, to make sure that they're more interactive so that they get more out of the meeting. There's just a number of challenges that we face, and not the least of which is that people are tired of being on back-to-back calls that are boring and static and don't engage them on enough levels. So we need to fight against that Zoom gloom or Zoom fatigue, whatever you want to call it, and make it a different experience. We don't want to contribute to that Zoom fatigue that people may be experiencing. We want to make our meeting really stand out and be part of the bright spot in their day. This is much like when an actor goes from being on stage and doing a live performance to being in front of the camera and having no audience there, and maybe not even that person they're supposed to be talking to on camera in the room. It's very different feel. You can't read your audience, you can't feed off that energy, and you have to work within the confines of this medium. So we're going to look at some ways to do that and really make things as interactive and engaging as possible. The first tip I want to share with you is this: you have to interact early. We are teaching our audience, our customer, our team, our peers, how we expect them to engage in those very first minutes, seconds even, of our presentation or meeting. So if you wait 15 minutes, 10 minutes, even 5 or 7 minutes into your meeting to start some interaction, you're going to have a hard time getting them interacting later on. So you want to really set those expectations early by getting them involved, either typing something in chat or raising their hand, something just simple, just to get the activity of participating into their body. Secondly, you want to think about assigning roles. The best way to get people engaged is to have them responsible for some activity. So that can be assigning someone to track the time of different sections of people speaking, someone to take notes, perhaps someone to monitor chat or to introduce a game or an activity. And that way you start to introduce different speakers, different parties. They take on some responsibility for some of that interaction. And when your team sees some of their peers involved, they're more likely to get involved as well. The third thing you want to remember is you want to try to go full camera as often as possible. I know a lot of us have slides that we want to share and some content, and that's fine, but you want to certainly start out full camera and then try to go full camera at different points within your presentation. What's great about Prezi Video is you don't necessarily have to make that choice because as you can see, I'm here with my slides and you can still see me pretty well. So that's a fantastic thing to be able to do, to be able to share both. That way people can look to your face for context and meaning and emotion and get what they need from the slide. The next tip is you want to think about talking to one person. I know you may have anywhere from 5 to 50 people to 100 people on your team, but if you think about just talking to one person in the camera, each person will feel like you are talking just to them. And what happens is if we start to think about talking to a whole bunch of people, our eyes get a little more general, and our intonations get broader, and it just doesn't feel that intimate. We start to kind of wander around because we're trying to cover everybody. And if you think about just talking to one person, what's great is everybody will feel like you're talking to them. So when you ask that question, instead of people necessarily thinking you're asking everybody else but them, they'll all think you're talking to them and you expect an answer. And that's a beautiful thing in the virtual world, because you, like most of us, have probably been on the receiving end of questions and hesitated to answer because there's other people on the call. And it's very hard as a presenter to embrace that pause. And yet you really need to, because there's a lot of things happening during that time that we don't think about as a presenter. We think, oh my gosh, it's dead air, and we panic and jump in and answer our own questions. And what's really happening is your audience is thinking, what do I think about what she said? Do I have an answer? And then they're thinking, should I answer? Or is Bob going to answer? And then they're negotiating. They're thinking, well, it doesn't look like anybody else is going to answer. Maybe I should answer. That whole process takes more than 10 seconds. So you really need to leave that space and allow that room for your audience to go through that process. And that really keeps us from answering our own questions, because if you start to do that, you'll be doing that for your entire meeting or presentation, and you don't want that. The next thing you want to think about is in terms of organize your content. And I refer to this as creating snack size content. And I don't know about you, but I love snack size candy. It always makes me feel like I'm eating less, even though that couldn't be farther from the truth. But be that as it may, instead of giving them just this whole 30-minute presentation, think about breaking it up into small little chunks, little bite-sized pieces that people can consume. And we want to do that because attention is so hard to maintain virtually. It's hard to maintain live, but especially virtually. The average lifespan of our attention is starts to wane after about 2 to 5 minutes, and then it really starts to bottom out. So you don't want to just continue on one topic and ride that wave so that you're in the middle of that topic and people are tuned out. You want to understand how that attention span works and break that content into 2 to 3 to 4 minute chunks. So you may have something that's going to take you, say, 10 minutes to talk about, but you can break those into, 4 little subtopics. And what happens is every time you introduce a new subtopic, even though it's still related to the overall topic, it refreshes your audience's attention. So that's a great way to keep that attention dive from taking your audience out. And finally, you want to think about using your virtual toolkit, your virtual engagement tools. And that can be everything from a poll to chat to video to annotating on your screen to using an actual whiteboard or the whiteboard in your platform. But there's a lot of different things that you can use. You don't have to use them all in a meeting, but it's great to use variety. If you just use one tool the entire time, like just asking questions, your audience adapts to that pretty quickly. And once people adapt to things, they feel a little more comfortable tuning out. So try to introduce some variety in terms of the way that you engage people throughout your meeting. And then what you want to do is introduce that interaction, those engagements, in between those chunks. So that way you talk about something for a couple minutes, then you have some sort of engagement, whether it's posing a question or having a quick poll or telling a story or showing a video before you go on to the next chunk. And that really keeps things active and moving, and people feel like they don't want to miss what's coming next. So all of these are great, quick ways to really ensure that your sales meeting, your presentation is much more engaging, keeps people attentive and involved. And that way they're much more likely to take away your message, to take those action steps that you're asking them to take. And these will make sure that you end your meetings on a very positive note, and they won't be one of those that we just instantly forget as we go on to our next meeting. So if you'd like some more tips, if you found this helpful, please reach out with me, connect on LinkedIn at Julie Hansen Sales Training, or check out sellingon-video.com. I've got a lot of great videos on different ways to connect and engage and keep things interactive on video. And I love to hear from you. So good luck and have a great meeting.